So good afternoon. Session today in continuation of the sales room sessions, as it were. Basically, we're looking to help you increase and change your businesses a little bit. We finished the sales room tour. The good news is that the sales room tour, if you were unable to actually come on tour with us, we're creating a USB of it and things really, which will be available in the next few weeks. Look out for that. There's a special offer running at the launch. So we're actually going to be giving our Black Friday offer for the offer at launch, and then it'll actually go up and things. So watch out for that anyway. Right, so what are we doing today? Jay's on the question panel. So basically, please get them in as quick as you can, because these are just short kind of webinars that we're doing. So today we're talking about creative photography equals creative products and creative pricing. I personally look at the world of photography in, I don't think, being as creative as we need it to be, and so many photographers use it as an excuse just for awards but don't offer things out to normal clients. And I thought we'd just do a quick session looking at this whole topic of creative photography and everything else. It'd be interesting on your feedback with this and looking at actually how we can kind of make money from it and things really. So basically, we were kind of just picked on one shoot, and it was a shoot that was requested through from one of our past clients. In fact, Charlotte used to work for us as well. This is the image that we created for her, and it's basically her requested style of photograph, but she also wanted to do a maternity shoot as well. We filmed this. Is it available yet to view? Do you know anywhere, or is it a USB for sale? Do you know?
No, it's not on the site as yet. So no, it'll be coming very soon, but no, we haven't launched it yet.
Is it for the site then, or is it a Mark Cleghorn product? I'm not quite sure. Well, how it was filmed.
That's a really good question that I will find out and get back to you with.
Okay, brilliant. Right, so during this session, I'd like us to chat about why we offer creative services in the first place. Okay, what is creative photography? Touch on finding the right client a little bit. Looking at when we introduce creative photography into the business, time does it equal profit? And then perhaps a little bit about the shoot preparation. How do I maximize the session itself? And then developing the concepts further and actually bring them into everyday kind of usage and things really. So why offer creative services? Well, for me, I would have absolutely gone brain dead if I didn't add creativity into the generalization of the work that we were doing. So at our busiest, where we were photographing 1,000 sessions a year plus 100 weddings and our commercial business as well, you feel that you're a bit on a kind of a treadmill. And so for you guys who are just doing 5 or 6 sessions a week and you feel you're on a treadmill, now fast forward to working for us and being one of our photographers and actually feeling that times 10, as it were. We needed to offer creative services for many reasons. We needed to do them to separate ourselves away from the other photographers in the area. We needed to do creative services for ourselves, and that could mean in a normal family session that the last 20 minutes was basically left to the photographer. They could do what they want. But we needed to make sure that the client was being shown the opportunity to have more than something normal as such, really. So where we kind of look at the day-to-day photography, perhaps now, 2017, and you start to look at the studio photography in the UK, you still kind of think about the high key kind of background and so on and so on. But when you actually start to look at high key done exceptionally well and high key diluted to the basic level, there's a vast difference even in that basic of product there. So what can we do with the normal kind of session is the key thing, and actually drive ourselves to offer the client that creativity. Funny that we've got a maternity image actually on screen, because I suppose one of the biggest ways for us to really show how important it is to be shooting different, fun, creative ideas, whatever you want to kind of call things, was when Demi Moore was featured on the front cover of Vanity Fair many, many moons ago. So we were on Studio One, so it must have been between 1985 and 1986 and 1995. And basically, we just won a Kodak Gold Award with a nude maternity image. And basically, because of the award, we'd had it in our window for about 4 weeks. It was a very big image, 40 inches, plus all the award around it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this young reporter was going past our window all the time, unknowing to us. And because of this Vanity Fair cover and her association by spotting a very similar image to mine, which obviously had already won this kind of big award, she went, okay, can we do an article based on Welsh celebrity, Welsh, kind of difference, what makes a front cover and everything else. And so it sprung an article. And this image, because we'd covered over the boobs with the arm and kind of you couldn't see any of the pubic area because of the position of the leg, we could actually have a very large image into the newspaper at the time. And when I'm going back, you've got to remember there once was a time without Facebook where news was a long lead. So in other words, 24 hours, not 12 minutes or 12 seconds. So for us to be able to get a feature in there and kind of get the chance and opportunity to talk about creative photography was essential to us. Now, most of the creativity that I brought into the business was to alleviate the boredom, as I was saying, but also in the early years was to really push our brand and awareness out there. We'd only been going for several years. So it meant that I was a developing photographer, developing style. And so I needed to ensure that basically people were talking about me. We had some exceptional photographers within the town as well of Cardiff, well more known than me, all priced higher than me at the time. And I needed to I wanted their clients, I didn't need them. I needed them, of course, but yes, I wanted them. I wanted to be the number one in the town. And some people today would say, well, that's really arrogant. Why should you be better than everybody else and so on? I'm not trying to excuse my need or greed to you. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how and how my mind kind of ticks. And being the best is something that I never have been in anything that I've done in life. So trying to have the opportunity to push myself forward and forward more each day was something that I kind of really wanted to kind of try and kind of achieve. So the creativity for me, and then being highlighted not only with awards but then through the press, was something that brought a spotlight into me and allowed me to elevate myself much quicker into an already busy town of photographers, but also quite a rich town because of one specific photographer who charged a lot of money for their photography. It allowed me to really kind of push my prices up much, much quicker. And we'll talk about prices later on, perhaps. But really what we're trying to actually get over is that the only real need for creative services within a business was because I wanted to give the clients something better, and I wanted to actually really show off as a photographer how good I was. Now, as a commercial photographer, basically a art director gives me a series of briefs, images, designs, artwork, whatever it would be, and then it's my job to interpret it or to match it as close to what they want. So this image of the maternity image in a milk bath is basically something I've never done before, this shooting things really. And it was inspired, as I said, from Charlotte. She gave us the image she wanted to do. And if I was a real working photographer today, the using the likes of the Pinterest and the creative to inspire the client to do even more is something that I'd be encouraging everybody to use. Now, if you've seen my boudoir photography, you know that all the clients basically create their own Pinterest board for me, so I know how far they want to go and where they want to dial it back from and things really. And that's really what we're at here. I was lucky enough to photograph Charlotte's first bump. Can't remember how long that was ago. And in that, we created, in fact, our maternity video. Is that available yet on the Academy, Jay, do you know?
Yes, I believe it is. Yep.
It is. Perhaps you can find a link and actually post that out anyway, yeah?
Sure.
And basically, we shot quite a variety during that shoot. And I still have one of her images up on my wall today. I don't have this image yet on my wall, which is really strange. But the florist does. All right, so it's weird. I went down, I bought the flowers and everything else, but the florist loved the image and said, can I buy a poster of that? And of course, yes, you can. But this is always about being inspired by the client or us inspiring the client to go that next kind of position. I'm not sure if I'm pushing the ball around the park without shooting it in the goal here a minute. But the key thing for me, a client wants, my job is to say yes or no, that's not the kind of thing that I do and things really. So as far as what is creative photography, I suppose then we've got to actually look at the session and we have to look at it from the beginning. So we didn't start in the bath, we began in some way. If I go too fast this, Jay, please give me a shout. So first test shot before we even get going here. So just going through the kind of the classic images to begin with, using the hands, the lighting to exaggerate shape and light on the bump, then using the curtain backdrop as the kind of the daylight kind of almost kind of coming through from the garden as it were, but it's in studio. Involving the partner at this stage. He wasn't involved in the first shoot with us, but he's involved now. And just going through the kind of the usual maternity shoot that I would do. This was the little boy that was in the original Bump, if you ever saw that film. He's wicked. And we just wheeled over our boudoir bed into the studio position to actually do some on the bed shots and things really. And it was great how he was interacting with her. Little devil, of course. In fact, if you ever get to see the video, it's quite funny because he's riding his bike around my studio. It's that big while we're actually doing the shoot. It's quite funny. But again, he's got Haribo in his hand here. That's really what it's encouraging to kind of get close to mum and everything else. Bit of fun and play actually just on towards the bed, just to create the variety. But I'm a relationship photographer, which means where possible, I want the people within the photograph to be touching each other in some way. That's just my style of photography, no different to my wedding photography. If somebody's in the group, they need to be close enough to either touch or position or animate and things really. So again, just a kind of a few images. Then we brought in the partner because he was there. I didn't think it would be real with his shirt on, and he obliged me by whipping off his shirt and just going through it. These are basically only gone through raw. They haven't gone through any finishing at all, okay? So again, just actually the three of them. Again, the little boy was being a little bit of I know what I want to do and everything else. But you're just kind of seeing what I would say is the average kind of maternity boudoir bed kind of shoot and things really. Lots of expressions, lots of touching, lots of relationship. Well, I've done that now. Now I need to kind of move it up a little bit more. So I introduced a snooted light actually onto the client instead of the softbox compared to what we saw before. Still lighting from high key behind. Now without that snooted light on her, she is a silhouette. Okay, there is no light spilling onto her at all. So we're just shooting through a kind of variety there to give the kind of the difference of the looks and feels. And then we just move the snoot to a kind of a little bit more of a fashiony look and feel. To actually light just the face, but still giving the almost silhouette to the bump itself and things really. And I think those images look really well, quite kind of voguey. Then turned the background lights off, still kept the snooted light, and then allowing ourselves to have a little bit more of a mid-key kind of element, even going down into a lower key kind of feel. Moved into the full-on shot. It's not usually an image that I would shoot because obviously you can't see the bump naturally, especially with black on black. So it's better obviously to always work into the profile position, but it's an opportunity that we have to move the kind of the shapes. Then we kind of added in a little bit of a tutu and just we had some flowers there, so Charlotte kind of hung on to those and just running through it. Then we introduced some of the netting around the waist to actually give a little bit more of a flow, then throwing the netting up in the air. So again, just adding into the normal maternity shoot to add in a little bit more variety. And if you get the chance to go and look at her first shoot, the second shoot is nothing like the first shoot, okay? Bar a few images where basically the body is turned into the profile position to obviously show off the profile. So this is the first stage that I see so many photographers just in repeat mode, especially when a client is coming back for second and third of something, even the likes of when you're doing a baby plan and you're doing 3 shoots in a year with them. My experience group, I try and encourage them, and something that we're working specifically on for next year more and more, is to identify the 3 different styles and 3 different kind of totally different looks for the shoot itself. So running through that whole list of kind of photographs and things really, and then getting ready for this lovely outfit that she had, and then actually just bringing the bed over by the church window to shoot some of the daylight stuff. We had a load of flowers, as I've said, I bought from the actual florist. So we're getting ready though to put those on the bed, but I didn't want to kill the shoot straight away in case the flowers didn't work. So I went through what I felt was a normal kind of boudoir element, and then bringing in some of the flowers around to create the different shapes and feeling and things really. And then we brought her into a paddling pool that we filled with water, warm I would say as well. And then we added in some milk to obviously kind of give the dilution, the milkiness to it. But we found that we had a real problem with the blue paddling pool showing through, so we had to cover it over in white more and more, and add more and more milk in there to actually lose all the colour, but there is still a blue tone to the milk and things really. But just adding in the kind of the variety. So this is kind of just going through the milk bath kind of variety, and we shot around probably about 20 different styles of image within the bath. But I found that the one I enjoyed the most was this kind of one that we were contriving for at the end. So there's gone through a lot of effort here, and I've paid for flowers. I paid 15 quid for the actual real flowers instead of going for silk ones, because I felt I'd have to wash the silk ones with milk, they'd smell, and I'd end up throwing them away anyway. So that was my element to the creative photography, and as I said, what you've just seen is the unfinished selection of the images, though they haven't actually been photoshopped in any way yet. And I think that kind of begins to show you my development into the creative process of actually just don't jump straight into the creative image at the beginning, because you need that maximum variety. It's slightly different with commercial photography, of course, where we've got a route to go along and we've got to get X amount of images done in a day, and they'll be very specifically designed. So then we start to look at the finding the right client for the job, and basically finding the right clients to be our client, as it were. I think creativity breeds creativity. So when you're more of a creative photographer, you will naturally start to attract in more of a creative kind of client as well. And that will be a creative spending client as well. But people who are becoming more and more familiar with your creative, your difference, will then actually start to look at what you're doing more in depth and start to select you as their possible photographer if they can afford it. But finding the right client is not difficult. With one of my experience group on Wednesday, I was doing a studio visit, and basically we had 4 women come along for a development shoot, and basically we had 5 booked in. One had to cancel out the last minute because they weren't very well, but within 3 or 4 days we've created ourselves the opportunity to get creative in a certain style that the photographer wanted to develop more. So creative photography does start to attract in a creative kind of client, but it still takes work and a little bit more kind of going out there and dragging them in and things really. But if we had more time, we could kind of explore that more. Time versus profit is always going to be a difficult thing. In fact, profit per hour is stage 3 of the experience group. And even after 3 years, we don't have any of the experienced people at stage 3 yet. Quite a few of them on stage 2, but mainly in stage 1. Stage 2 is average per hour, whereas in stage 1, we're looking at the average client spend throughout and things really. So the time versus profit is going to be very difficult, especially if you're a busy studio, because taking time out to shoot 2 or 3 hours for a shoot and you're only going to turn around X amount of money for it isn't going to pay off, perhaps. I think we're seeing that with a lot of newborn photographers, where the niche photographers, the specialists, are getting very high sales. So they're getting their 1,500, 2,000, 2.5 grand sales. So they're working that out in the 4-hour shoot and basically an hour in viewing. But when you start to actually dissect that, let's say a £2,000 shoot, by 6, because basically there's 6 hours involved. That is 4 hours for the shoot, an hour for the viewing, and an hour of the preparation and sale. The production going to the lab. It basically starts to go, well, hang on a minute, if I did X amount divided by 6 hours, I only need to actually have this much per client to be able to generate the same amount of money. So this is a difficult part, where, as I said, when we start to actually do the times versus profit, it does take a little bit of development, and it's not so bad when you're a quiet photographer. Perhaps you're doing 2 or 3 sessions per week, you can look at that, but 2 or 3 sessions a week is very, very hard to make a really decent living unless you're absolutely a niche photographer and have got time to burn and money to burn on getting up to that kind of position. Shoot preparation takes time in itself, especially for specific projects like we're seeing here. So going to the florist, getting it, go and get the paddling pool, blah, blah, blah. So when you start to actually create this product, you've got to be looking at the long term, and is this a product that I can be selling out? So developing the concept further, is this something I can actually offer as a part of my kind of maternity shoots from now on, and how can I develop this more and more? So it's just looking at all of the elements together and how it all plays its part. Then we need to start with looking at the creative products for creative photography, because they are not the same thing. And so let's just kind of jump over to a few of the Academy sponsor sites for a minute. Loxley Color, and by the way, I use all of these. Okay, so I use Loxley Color, 3XM, and Kaleidoscope as well. But when we start to look at the wall products, what kind of wall creativeness do we need to actually achieve? So when we just click on the wall there for a minute and we start to kind of click on everything, we start to see different types of product. And I always think that different types of photography needs different type of presentation with it. So things like the Premiere acrylic, the floating block perhaps. Yes, we're used to the fine art float frame now. We're also looking at the Fusion fine art wrap. So when we start to use the acrylic, we start to actually see where these are multiple images in a frame. Now, by design, I'm not a fan of multiple photographs in the same photograph frame itself, because I much prefer to actually deal with one photograph in the presentation, because then I can sell another one and another one and another one. So I'm looking at multiples instead of single wall. So that's absolutely key for me. So this definitely does bring a little bit of creativeness to that product and will suit some people's homes. I think the likes of this type of product, the floating block, is definitely a creative product, and one that we're bringing in for 2018. We haven't brought it in for now, but absolutely love it. I just recently did a visit up to Loxley's again, and again, looking at how it can kind of really add into our product range. At times, you can create yourself too many products to sell, and it just confuses the client. So what we need to make sure that we're doing is having very specific products for very specific photography. And so in the kind of maternity shoot that I'm looking at for a minute, that would give me definitely a different product that I have at present and could fit itself, I could see, into a product, or a product table, I should say, ready for that client. I definitely know that the float frame, the fine art float frame, would actually suit itself as well, to do with its creativity, its edge, and its finishes. So that would be something that I would want to actually bring into the flavor, as well as the fusion art. I absolutely love this, in fact. Fusion art is basically a mixture of a canvas wrap with a frame. And even though it really does price it up, I think that's what it makes it different by its own design, really. When we get closer a minute. So when we start to actually see the kind of the ghost line that is allowed around the image, to a little bit of that shadow, and it's separated away from it, starts to add a little bit more into the creative product. It's good because it does have a champion product, which means that I can maximize the profit, or at least minimize the sale pricing. I'm a ×7 to ×9 photographer, more ×9. So it means that a £74 image plus VAT and delivery is close to £100. So at a 2016 size, I would have to be selling that at close to 900 quid in my pricing structure, but that's for me and not for you. As far as your creative, if you are, say, a desperado pricing, where you're timesing things by ×3, ×4, then you might want to actually, for your creative photography, if you have stepped up to the game and you are creating top class photography with the difference with it, you might be able to bring a signature range in there to actually ×7 to ×9, ×5 to ×7 even. So when we start to look at the likes of Kaleidoscope, we feature them quite a lot on tour. But when we start to look at their alternative products, once more, we could look at things like the box installation, and we talked about the IF11 and IF08 on tour, and I would say that things like the IF06 again would be a perfect product to be bringing in. One of the most visible products that we were doing on the sales room tour, in fact, the IF05 is the 4 12x12s, which is £119 plus VAT and delivery. Is absolutely exquisite, and that is a product that would definitely want to come into the creative element to it and things really. And in the same way with 3XM, their new range of high-end kind of boxed prints and USB would definitely make its way into the creative shoot. But of course, what we're talking about is this kind of profit level. So creative products have to have a creative range of products. So this is where, if your general range of photography is classed as classical, it means that you would have to have the likes of a signature or icon range to bring itself into the likes of specialist or creative photography and things really. And that is why you need to offer something more creative in the product line instead of something standard on the wall. When we start to look at the creative pricing, I touched on that a little bit, as far as if you're doing your standardized photography, but you're actually putting a concept in place. So perhaps your normal session fee is a 125 quid. Perhaps you could put a £250 session fee in place with a minimum buy of, say, a 20-inch. So you're guaranteeing yourself a minimum, say, around about £500, £600, £700, £800 worth of income coming in from the creative photography element. The one thing to watch out for, of course, is that you price yourself too high and it stops the client coming through the door in the first place. But you need to really make sure that you are pricing your creative time more if possible. Otherwise, you're not going to be making much money from your creativity in the photography. But you need to bring in different products and different collections to make sure that you can maximize the selling price. Questions there, Jay?
Yeah, we've got some questions here. Obviously, you've answered a few of them already. Obviously, looking at the creative shoots, one of the things that came up is that sort of what is the time difference between a creative shoot and a standard sort of portrait session?
Okay, well, I suppose the only real way to discuss that is kind of where your what am I trying to say? It's how much time have you got? As I was saying to you, if your business is based not on a lot of sessions, so if you're only doing 3 to 5 a week, you should be creative with each one of your sessions coming through the door, because it's about enhancing the experience for the client, enhancing their client photography session itself, which should result in inspiring the client to actually end up with a whole range of products and variety of images that they can't get anywhere else. So it all depends on the type of client, that is coming through your door.
Okay. Somebody mentioned earlier on that you referred to the fact that the florist asked to buy the print, the poster. So the question itself was how do you go about getting permission from the client to be used commercially, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a kind of a negotiation between you and the client and things really. But again, I'm not, okay, so the first thing is, are you doing this for photography development, or are you doing this for the client as sale? If you're doing it for photography development, and perhaps you're bringing in clients on a free session, but they know that you're going to be using for awards. You know they're going to be using. They know in advance, okay, what you're using these for. So basically, it's going to be used. Once you start to sell images, you've got to be careful if a client is coming in for free, as it were. Because there is money changing hands there, and you need to make sure you've got model forms signed, that it means that they have no commission as a part of that shoot. So it's a little bit of a grey area there anyway, but again, as far as the florist was concerned, it's just actually up in her shop, and you could be using that, of course, as a poster or something like that to advertise your photography services, but it's a slight different scenario. Does that answer the question, Jay, or do you want me to go over that again?
No, I think it does, but it actually leads us into the other question that's just come in now. How do you feel about this sort of photography being too niche? Do the clients want it, and is it hard to market?
A client doesn't know what they want. Full stop. There are so few clients that go in and say, I want that, okay? And if they go, I want that, the problem in that is it because that's all they've ever been experienced for. Our job when they come into the studio as a family, let's use that as an example, we're not going to ask them, would they like photographs of mum and dad individually? Would they like the photographs of the kids individually? Would they like a photograph of mum with the two kids, mum with a little girl, mum with a little boy? No, that's just a part of our normal session. Yeah, the creative element to the end of the session is the propping that they bring in, the ideas that I bring to market to actually take that session to a whole new level again. All right. So as far as what the client wants is concerned, a client doesn't know what they want until it's actually put in front of them. And it's our job not to give a client what they want, it's to give a client something that they would never experience anywhere else.
And the last part of that question was, do you find it harder to market this type of photography?
Yeah, of course. But again, if creative photography is your standardized product range, then it shouldn't be hard to begin with. So I would hope that in some way you all have a kind of a portfolio to show yourself off. We've talked about this in the past and things really, but we always need to make sure that the images that you present to a client should be representation of you throughout the whole year and things really. So when you start to look at your best of your best images, what are those images? Again, we've just done our awards final judging for the Xperience group, and basically all of those are kind of looking at the more creative element and things, but there is also some imagery that is more basic than others, and obviously the photographers are a little bit kind of upset when they kind of don't get through the awards, but you can just tell the photographers who are working it are not. So, you know, if this is a series of images from the 2016 portfolio of mine, just because I've got them on a stick and just because we got onto here. But when we start to actually choose images from the variety, what would represent Mark Cleghorn if this was 2016 getting ready in towards 2017? What do I want to actually be known for? What do I want to show myself off for? Let's just kind of pick a few photographs here out of the collection. Okay, so if we just go through that for a minute. So the creativity has to start at home. It takes you to create the effort. So yes, I love to photograph dance. I love to photograph dancers. But when I'm going to work on location or in the studio, I want to make even more creative out of them. If I'm photographing normal people in the studio, how do I create even the step up from the basic? In the headshot scenario, a part of every shoot that I do, how do I make it different and kind of images that can stand the course of time and inspire the client? If we're into the boudoir photography, do I want to bring a little bit of a fashion element to it? In the baby, how do I make it more simple so it looks graphically amazing on the wall? If I'm working with workshops at any stage, do I want to interpret things in a different way, perhaps actually including props or animals or different locations? As far as the presentation is concerned, do I want to actually take influence from magazine or album covers over the years? How do I create the different looks for a client coming through my door, no matter what? Can I add in something different into each of the boudoir shoots? So their favorite perfume, their favorite jewelry, their favorite shoes. How do I create a difference in the lighting with the shoots? Could you get, and that's Charlotte again, funny enough, just coming up now. So how do I do this? How do I take my photography up to that next level? Those are the things that you should be looking at, because I think once you start to explore the different types of people and the different types of photography that you want to get involved with more, then they'll naturally take you down a different avenue and help you find that type of client. Did that answer the question, Jay, or did I push that around the park too much?
No, I think that was good, mate. Absolutely. The last few questions I have are actually, we've had some questions regarding the experience. So I know you're going to talk about that first, so I don't know if you want to talk about that quickly, and then if we miss any of the questions that have been asked, I'll chip them in there.
Okay, great. Look, guys, so, some of you will know, some of you won't, but the Xperience Group in the UK and Ireland is something that I've been running for 3 years now. We've just launched the Group 4. Their first face-to-face meeting here is in January, and I'd like to get it filled as quick as we can, to be honest, because we're doing some amazing things during 2018 and 2019 within the Xperience Group. What is the Xperience Group? Well, basically, it's a group of photographers around the UK and Ireland. And over the past 3 years, anybody who actually joins Xperience has generated an average of around about 30,000 quid. There are some failures in there, but very, very few. But it will generate you £30,000 of sales pretty much. As long as you get out of my way straight away, we can do it within months, as it were. But in fact, we've had some photographers who've more than doubled, if not trebled, their actually turnover since they joined with us and things really. So it can feel a bit batting of heads together and things really. So far in total, over the past 3 years, 93 photographers have come through us. And what we tend to do is either fill you fast or fill you on a slow burn. Depends on the type of business that you're running. We have different types of photographers, some who are at a desperate level who actually need to actually get going and change the business straight away because the things are not going well and they're beginning to fail. They might even have to close the door, which is terrible, but I can fix that pretty much within weeks. There are some key elements that take a little bit more time to put together to maximize the sales and so on, but we can fill you as fast as you want. So basically, during the course of the past 3 years, everybody that's gone through us has made more money from their photography when things really. The key things for me are making sure that we find you the clients and then eventually the right type of clients. We use a different trigger system than many as far as the promotions are concerned. We help you along the way define style along with define client, looking at your value chain and everything to do with your business en route and things really, as well as creating session plans to maximize the client experience and maximize the sale and help you kind of really preparing for the sale itself and things really. We go through solidly the sales room. We're doing another two-day sales experience with the group for next year again. One of the most important things for many of the Xperience group is actually making sure that we're maximizing the pricing and we're having the right products to actually do with each one of you. And that's why we spend so much time one-to-one, you and I, to make sure it's going from it and things really. The Xperience, as a rule, it should be £3,704 for the year, but we're giving you 500 quid off the joining fee. So you don't have to pay the £500 up front anymore for Group 4. So it's costing you £267 a month. Remember, within that, you also get £500 to spend on wall display at Loxley and Kaleidoscope, so £250 at Loxley and £250 at Kaleidoscope, straight away back. During the course of it. So as far as 2 basic session sales during the course of the month that I will guarantee put on your door will replace my fee. So I can absolutely guarantee it. There was a lady a couple of years ago who joined Xperience too, but before she did, she'd been with another mentoring system for a year. And she was just coming to the end, and basically she said, all they've done is really give me lip service. They've taught me the nice talk and everything else, but they haven't really showed me how to put bums on seats and showed me how to sell and so on and so on. And as much as she loved the experience with the other training provider that were doing it, they said that basically it was just nice. It was just a lip service element, and she needed me to guarantee it. And I said, look, I can't guarantee it because there's no way guarantee that you'll get out of my way. But she did. She got out of my way, and within 30 days, she actually filled her studio from start with 30 sessions. That's a bit too fast, okay? I'd much prefer a slower burn, but if you need them straight away, we can do that. We have one studio that joined Xperience 3, and in 3 months put 89 grand on the business just from one promotion alone. Serious stuff. Serious stuff. I am the only one in the UK today, I believe, that is absolutely guaranteeing you that we can actually fulfill it if you get out of our way. Things really. Because time is the essence for us all, we changed our catch-up day, where you came down here for one day, into a series now of short videos. So as soon as you join Xperience, basically within 36 hours you can be catching up everything to do with Xperience, and within weeks of you joining you'll have your one-to-one session with me, and you'll also have your social media training done with Jay. So that's how fast we can physically put it together. All in all, during the course of the year, you get 4 online one-to-one sessions with me. Your first one being an hour and a half long, and then the others are 60 minutes. That's to make sure we're tracking you continually during the quarters to make sure we're really actually pushing things forward more. That's combined with another 8 webinars that we do basically most months, and that's where we keep everything Xperience up to date. You come down to the Xperience with us, including the fee. I know some people can't do it. There's no discount on that for now. But again, in the face-to-face meetings, they're essential really to meet the others within the group and things really. But this is 1 day photography and 1 day business each time you come down and visit us. So in other words, if you're seeing the 3-day, 1-day photographies, that would be either side, or half the group would come down on say a Sunday for the photography. All of that one group would come together on the Monday for the business training, and the rest of the group 4 would come down on the Tuesday for their actually photography day and things really. All right, so that kind of gives you a basics of how we kind of grow it and things really. Because social media is so important, Jay does a 1-to-1 hour with you during the course of the year. That's worth it by itself, to be honest, because he'll save you thousands of pounds a year in marketing if you're spending money now on social media and other lead generation, kind of guaranteed. So if you're spending money on buying in leads, we'll save you more than that each month, guaranteed. We have our own awards because we need them for marketing, as well as to actually push the quality of the photography forward. We produce literature every single month based on national campaigns and things that we do, as well as new ad designs for social media every month as well. We also produce video content to, I think we're the only ones in the world offering this service to clients. This is just one of the ones that's running recently. I'm not sure how good that is on video because it doesn't stream very well on GoToWebinar, but it gives you a good idea on what we kind of bring to the table to ensure that things are going while really pushing forward all the time and things really. Okay, Jay, any questions?
We do actually, quite some really important ones as well with regards to Xperience. So I'll just run through a couple of them. I've doubled up, so I'll try not to ask them twice. Do I have to have a studio?
No, you don't. It's not essential at all. Obviously, if we're looking at doing more and more clients in a week, either a studio or a viewing room helps us, but it's not the be-all and end-all at all.
And that similar question, but also, does this work only for existing businesses, or what if I'm at the beginning of starting or thinking of starting a business?
Yeah, it's one of our common questions asked, Jay, isn't it?
Yeah, very.
Yeah, again, no, it doesn't matter. If anything, existing businesses are slower to react because they think they know more than me. And that's why I said, if you can get out my way, I can fill you straight away. I can get you trained straight away, and I can get you selling straight away. It's quite funny, in fact, because within the group, obviously, we have our own Facebook group that's hidden. And before the sales session with one photographer who joined us, he was basically having a 50% no or low sale. And it was just like we knew inherently it was something that he was doing wrong. And then following the sale, he now moans at how many 750 sales that he gets, and when's he going to get his £1,000 sale. So it's quite funny for us, because we kind of not only look at what is now, but we also look at what was and things. So it's really quite funny on that.
Brill, and that led on to the next question, which you've already answered. I've got a small home studio. Is that okay? So obviously we've answered that one. I'm thinking of buying premises. So would that be something the Xperience would help me with?
Yeah, I'd basically encourage you to join the Xperience before you actually take on the lease of a studio and things, really, and for us to actually make sure it's right studio, right facilities, right sizing, right pricing. In fact, a few of the higher end experienced people use me more for that than anything else, is to make sure that the development is not wasted development and so on with it. And often studios that people have moved into just for the convenience, people have obviously ended up kind of moving out from there during the course of their first few years.
Yeah, same person has just asked that they currently rent their studio and they're looking to buy, but obviously want to make sure it's right for them. But I know we've done that for lots of the studios, so
Yeah.
absolutely we can do that. This is quite nice. It's never been asked before. Does Jay have a consultancy rate for social media? Join the Xperience group.
Yeah, we do for social media, but it's just within the Xperience group. I'm sorry. There's a lot of people out there selling you training. The only reason that I can do the training is because I'm a dedicated full-time trainer. Anybody who's doing training and also running a business at the same time is basically using it to prop the business up. I can guarantee you there is more money running a studio than there is in training. Okay, so anybody, if they apply their time to it, there's not a month that goes by here that I don't ask my wife if we can open a studio again. Remember, for those of you who don't know, I retired in 2001 from photography based on monies that I earned from photography. It's very important, that is, that the full-time trainers within photography have to have all the experiences that we bring, and it takes time to actually do it. And in the same way, Jay has actually spent many thousands of pounds over the past 3 years learning more and more about social media, making some of the mistakes. The whole point of what he does now is to make sure you don't make those same mistakes.
Just wanted to, last question I've got here, but also would like to ask everybody who's still online with us a question then also. We've talked obviously a lot today about portraiture and things like that. I am a wedding photographer. Can the Xperience help me?
It can, but it'll frustrate the hell out of you. It'll make you realise that you might love doing weddings, but in fact there's a lot more money to be earned on a Saturday being a portrait photographer than as a wedding photographer. Let's not forget that weddings are in the decline as far as the average money being earned by a wedding photographer is between £1,000 and £1,200 in the UK today. And basically that means that you're having to work a lot harder for your money, and you're still having to exhaust yourselves to generate that amount of clients coming through, unless you've already gone through the exhaustion of all the work to actually get in the clients from 5 or 6 years ago and things, because there is a wheel and you will get a drip feed of client coming through to you and things, really. But again, it's just it depends on exactly what you want to do. There's a lot more money in portrait photography than there is in wedding photography, I can guarantee that. But
sorry.
If you want to price it up, if you want to develop your style, if you want to increase the amount of weddings and so on, yes, I'll help you do that. But as a part of the main training for Xperience, it is all based about portrait photography.
I was going to say, I wanted to ask you that question because I knew what the answer would be, and we get it all the time, but it has come through today on that. And it's, I just want to emphasize, obviously, the one-to-one training is whatever you want it to be. The individual time, with you guys that you have with Mark or myself is based around the core of your business. And we have wedding photographers across all of the Xperience groups, but we've actually found, and by no coaching of our own, they've just realized what portraiture can do for them, and they've sort of incorporated that, and a lot of the businesses have swapped or not swapped or made portraiture the bigger emphasis, and still doing the weddings, but dialed back on it. But yeah, it's the one-to-one side of it. I think that's the core of all I think I wanted to make sure we got across. Is it's tailored to you.
I mean, we've got one wedding photographer, I can't name names and things really, but still does weddings and everything else for it, but from scratch has put a £250,000 portrait business in place within 3 years, in addition to the weddings that they're doing.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. What I wanted to say, and I'm sure you would, Mark, and obviously I'm going to thank you for always for your time. There's lots of thanks who's come through the panel, and obviously we're going to continue with these business series, and we want to know what you guys want us to talk about, so please let us know. I'm going to very quickly ask, and just a simple yes or no please, there's no hard sells here, but if you are interested in becoming a part of the Xperience group, if you could just put a simple yes or no in the chat box, that would be much appreciated. And why not just emphasize that if anybody here wants to know more, because there's obviously we've only been online with you for 40 minutes or so, please just give me a call, give it myself, Debbie, a call at the studio. We're here for you. There's lots of questions I'm sure we always find that you ask. It is about you, and we want to make sure that the business and the experience is right for you. I'm sure it could be. So give me a call. I'm available this afternoon, all day Monday. Don't hesitate. I'm here for you. I'll put time aside for you. It'd be great to hear from you. Anything you want to finish with, Mark?
Thanks, everybody. Take care out there. Just try and apply some of the things that we've talked about today. As I try and make everything I do affordable to the many. That's the key thing. Let's not forget that. And in the same way, if you're looking to offer out more creative photography to your clients, it starts with you. You are the only one who can just say, today's the day I'm going to be more creative than yesterday. That is the day, and that today should be tomorrow. Okay, make the decision, start it tomorrow, and basically whatever changes that you make within the business, whether it's just on the creative photography to begin with, before the creative products and before the creative pricing, make a difference. Thanks, everybody. Have a good time. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Good afternoon. Have a good one. Great weekend. Take care now. Bye.